As you've seen, both layouts and calculations work from the perspective of a given table, but both of them are able to access data in other tables via relationships. As your solution grows, you'll find that you add table occurrences to the relationships graph to support added functionality, and so the relationship graph also grows. To begin with, the addition of elements in the relationships graph isn't a problem. It's small enough and simple enough that you can see what's what, and it's not too hard to find anything. But after you've added enough elements, it can become increasingly difficult to find your way around the graph unless you've adopted an organising principle of some sort. The graph in the work file is still relatively simple, but even here some organisation is a good idea. I've already coloured a few of the table occurrences, and I moved some elements around as I went to keep a certain amount of order. But let's look at how the relationships graph might presently appear in the work file if I'd just let things stay wherever they landed. I have open a copy of the work file with a graph that represents pretty much how things would look if I hadn't done any graph organising as I went along. At this point, I'd like to consider a few steps you can take to organise the elements on the relationships graph so that you can keep it manageable and see what's going on without going nuts looking all over the place for things. First of all, if I select a table anywhere in the graph, I can use a tool down in the Tools section at the bottom of the Relationships Graph tab to select tables that are either related, that is, one relationship step away from the selected table, or table occurrences that have the same underlying source table or base table. For example, if I select the Author Notes table occurrence, and I use the Select Tables with Same Source Table command, all of the other occurrences of the Notes table are highlighted. Remember that the Author Notes table occurrence has as its source table the Notes table in the work file. Or alternatively, if I select the Author Notes table occurrence and choose the command to select related tables one away, the only table occurrence that the Author Notes table connects to becomes selected as well. In this case, that's the table called Authors. If I continue choosing the command, select related tables one away, FileMaker increases the selection to include other tables, stepping around the graph as it goes. To begin with, in organising a messy graph, a graph like this one that has things all over the place, it's useful to bring related elements together. So these three table occurrences should really be grouped somewhere near one another on the graph, whereas at the moment they're spread far apart. So now that I've identified them, I'll bring them over to the left so that they reside in the same general area of the graph. I'll also save some space on the graph by clicking the little roll-up icon to reduce the size of some of the elements so that we've got more room to see what's there. Now that I've aligned these three elements over at the left, I'll move a couple of other elements around. For example, the Publishers table is currently obscured behind the Authors table, so if I move it down a bit and also roll it up, it no longer overlaps the elements that I've moved over to the left. The Publications table is really at the centre of the activity in this solution, so rather than rolling it up or leaving it off to the side, I'll move it into the centre. And using the command to see what's related to the Publications table, and as you can see, there are actually 5 table occurrences related to the Publications table, I can now make decisions about locating those tables around the Publications table, so they're adjacent to it if you like, enabling me to see what's what much more easily. As it happens, most of them are positioned conveniently around the Publications table, but I'll move the Publications by Publisher table occurrence over to the left so that it doesn't overlap the Publication Notes or other table occurrences where it was sitting previously. Next, we have some table occurrences that are sitting in the middle behind other table occurrences, and they clearly need to be moved and grouped with other elements to which they relate. So again, I'll use the Select Related Tables one away to see where this particular table occurrence belongs. I can now see that this is the Assignment Quotation Join table, which of course belongs between the Quotations and Assignments tables, because those are the tables that it connects. So I'll bring it over adjacent to those two tables, sitting off to the right, and I'll roll it up, and I'll roll the Assignments table up too while I'm at it. There's another table that's hidden behind the publications table at the moment, and I can see that table, when it's brought to the front, is the quotation notes table, which is connected to the quotations table. So I'll simply bring that up to the right, where it's nicely out of the way and adjacent to the table to which it connects. Now things are looking much more ordered, but it would be handy if I rolled up a couple of the remaining table occurrences and moved the system table, which is tucked away here behind several other tables, perhaps down to the lower right, where it's out on its own and we can see what it is. So with those simple moves, I can now see everything, and I can also see all of the joins that connect the table occurrences. That is to say, I haven't got too many lines crossing or overlapping, and it's reasonably clear what's connected to what. With a little bit more movement, I can make it still clearer. Next, it would be useful if I applied some colours. We already have the publications table represented twice, both here and over here. So two table occurrences are pointing to the same source table. If I didn't already know that, I could simply have selected the publications table occurrence and used the select tool to select occurrences with the same source table. And then, with the occurrences selected, I could choose a colour. Previously, I applied colours to the notes table. And of course, you'll recall that there were a number of occurrences of the notes table, which I can find very quickly using the tool's selection icon. There they all are, now selected, and each of them pointing to the source table notes. So in this case, I'll choose a blue colour. And I might apply colours to other elements as well, to indicate that they have a role that's distinct from the elements adjacent to them. Part of the process of applying colour allows you to see grouped elements and relationships or logical groupings, perhaps modules in your solution. For example, you might use various shades of blue for the tables in your solution that deal with finances, whilst, say, you might use various shades of red and orange for tables that deal with stock and inventory, and shades of green for client and customer data, and so on. By applying colours according to some logic that you've devised, and also by using the same colour for TOs that have the same source table, you'll make it much easier to find things and to see what's where on the relationships graph. Another step you can make, again using an element from the Tools group of icons, is to add text to your layout. You can simply drag an area and then type a note, which appears as text on the relationships graph. You can choose a font, a size and colour, and also a background for the notes that you apply, so you can have different notes with different appearance. And you can move notes around and resize them, just dragging their edges to a new position. Other icons in the Tools area allow you to zoom, reduce the magnification of the graph, or control it using the % field at the right, so that if your graph has grown large, you can bring it down to a manageable size, enabling you to see all the elements at once. In addition, FileMaker provides a group of tools in a block headed Arrange. These provide additional options for organising the elements so that the graph will not be so chaotic. For example, if I drag a rectangle to select the column of table occurrences at the left here, I can now use the first of the Arrange icons to align the left edges of the selected table occurrences. If I select by shift-clicking on each in turn the top group of table occurrences, I can now use the tool second from the right to distribute the selected table occurrences horizontally, meaning that they will be equidistant from each other. And now if I select columns, I can not only align the columns according to their left edges, their right edges, or their centres, but I can also distribute the space vertically within the column. And if I have widely varying widths or heights for my table occurrences, I can also choose to use the rightmost tool to apply consistency to the width, height, or both of a selected group of table occurrences. So just by taking advantage of a number of basic organisational tools provided along the bottom of the Relationships Graph tab of the Manage Database dialog, and using some simple organising principles as you work, you can keep a certain amount of order and make your solutions much easier to work with, especially when you have more than a handful of table occurrences on the relationships graph.